Okay. CB.
I've been gone too long, coming back too strong, and you better believe I got a brand new song. I take the best you know and put them on the show. I'm on a mission to support the dope, so get your hands up high, wave them in the sky. You gotta keep it locked, I'ma tell you why. The best in the game, remember the name. Ask me again, I'ma tell you the same. Support the dope.
If you a real one.
Support the dope.
If you a day one.
Support the dope.
Let's have some real fun.
Support the dope.
Hey.
You're tuned into another episode of Support the Dope Radio. I'm your girl CB, and today we're joined by a visionary music executive, producer, and talent developer who has played a key role in shaping the sound and careers of artists across genres. From guiding creative direction behind the scenes to building platforms that help artists thrive, he brings a wealth of industry knowledge and a true passion for discovering and nurturing talent. I'm excited to dive into his journey and insights into the business of music. And I'm happy to say he's been a mentor of mine. So happy to have him on the show. Pleasure to introduce to a lot of you, Jovan Dawkins. Jovan.
Carla, I'm happy to be here. I'm very proud of you for your platform. You've been going a long time now, season 7, right?
Season 7, that's right.
Yeah, this is amazing. Yeah, you're interviewing all the right people that people need to know behind the scenes that make all this stuff pop. So you're doing a great job.
Thank you so much. Love the cosigns always, because I mean it gets rough, trying to keep up, keeping your content consistent, and especially when you're a team of one. But you guys have really important stories that deserve to be heard just as much as the artists that we see in front. You guys are doing the things that are making it happen for them and creating some of the really great things that they do that we know and we love. So you're a busy man, wearing a lot of hats. So I appreciate the time that you're taking today to talk to me and talk to our listeners to get to know you a little bit better. I just mentioned a second ago about you wearing a lot of hats, and I know a lot of what I said in your intro is about the business side, of music. But if we go back to your very beginnings, I think some people may or may not know that your love for music started as a kid, and that you even play some instruments and things like that. Tell us about how you first kind of fell in love with music.
Yeah, well, I'm gonna say birth at this point.
Okay, birth works.
So I'm a drummer first. That's my first instrument. So I grew up playing drums in church. I was beating on pots and pans, old ladies' hats in church. Those were symbols to me. The round, the big church.
Yeah, of course they were.
Symbols to me. So, all that. I used to take the little hanger. I don't even think they make them anymore. But remember the white stick that would come on the wired hangers?
Yep.
Remember those?
So you don't get the crease. You don't get the wire crease in your pants. Cardboard. Yeah, I got you.
So it started. I was playing drums on beat at 1 year old, and that sounds stupid, sounds crazy, but my grandmother and my mom, they got footage. So I started off with drums first. I mean, I would just gravitate to what was happening musically all the time. And then, if you fast forward after that, I went to do concert band in school. I didn't want to do it, actually. And I always tell this story. I thank my mom for making me do it. So, it made me do concert band. I had entered into the 6th grade. I was like, Mom, that's going to be boring. I don't want to do that robotic music. Because, I'm playing drums by ear at church, multiple services, different, what I'm saying? I don't want to do all that. She says, you need to do it because you need to learn how to read music, because it's going to become very valuable for you, and it's going to separate you from some of your peers. She said this to me back then. I'm 12, maybe 11, 12, something like that. And she's saying this to me. So I went to go do it. Best decision of my life. Actually, let me backpedal. 6th grade, she took me to the band orientation. She told the teacher that, hey, my son is really good on drums. She says, okay, great. We're going to start him off on bells. And my mom was like, bells? She's like, man, I think my son play. He don't need to do no bells. And so she's like, never mind, son. I'm going to take you out of here. Let's leave. So she took me out of there. And then the next year, I transferred schools another middle school. That's when I met a guy by the name of Mr. Barney Blau, which he's part of changing my life. He taught me how to read music. He was a phenomenal conductor, string arranger. I mean, he's incredible. And so that's when I learned how to read music. And I was very disciplined early on. No one had to tell me to be disciplined. I had no examples in front of me, to be totally honest. Not at least not where I'm from. I didn't have. I wasn't raised in Los Angeles. I moved here way later. So I made the decision that I'm only going to go to recess 2 to 3 times a week, and all those other days I would be in the band working. I would go to. I had a routine. It was like a workout plan. So I would get on keys, and I couldn't really play at the time, but I would just figure out chords and songs I hear, or I'm working on scales. I would go do that. I'll go get on snare drum, work on that, do some sight reading. I'll go in the jazz band room, play drum set, bash out. I just had a cycle, and it was all by myself. And so eventually, by me doing that consistently for like maybe 3 weeks or so, before my teacher just finally came up to me and says, "Devon, I noticed you're in here all the time. Why are you in here working on all this stuff?" And I said, "Well, music is my life." And when I said that, his eyebrows went up, as he
Yeah.
wasn't expecting some 12-year-old kid to make that kind of comment. So he says, "You let me know." He says, "Anything you need, I'm here." So he started working with me and sharpening my skills almost every day during
Mhm.
recess time. So, or recess / lunchtime, whatever. I would bring my food in there and work. So then that led to him saying, "I want you to start teaching scales," because when we would have band class, he would go over scales. He says, "I want you to start doing that moving forward." So then I was like, "Okay, great." So the next day, when all my friends and classmates come in the room, I'm on the tall podium with the long stick, and I'm feeling myself. And when when my classmates come in, they're like, "Ravon, Mr. Blau, you gonna get in trouble. Like, dude, get up, man, what you doing?" Da-da-da. They thought I was playing around. I was like, "No, I
Yeah.
was invited."
Like, no, I'm
And then
good.
he says, "All right, class, sit down, sit down. Okay, moving forward, Mr. Dawkins is going to be your conductor for your scales every day."
Ooh.
I'm like, so I'm co-teaching a little bit. Like I
Yeah.
was, you know,
A little bit.
it was,
A lot of
it
bit.
was, yeah, it was wonderful, man. And then that led to him saying, because now we're getting ready to have our first band concert, and he says, "I want you to conduct the song." So he asked me to conduct. It was my favorite song at the time. It was called Furiosa. And so he asked me to conduct the song. He gave me this grand introduction. Matter of fact, the introduction he gave me at the band concert with a whole gym filled with parents, I thought he was talking about somebody else. I'm like, who is he? He said I was conducting the song. Who was he
But
talking? I'm thinking he
talking about
brought
me?
in a guest and,
Uh-huh.
conductor from somewhere else or something, like an adult. You would have thought I was Quincy Jones. The way he was intro. I said, "Oh." I was nervous as heck. I did it, got a standing ovation, and that sparked the scoring side of my brain. That let me know, okay, I can do this. There's another side to this. So um
Mhm.
but yeah, so that I would say between church, playing drums in church, spending a lot of time at my grandmother's house. She had an upright piano. I would make up songs on there, take the little Casio keyboards, whatever I can find, and get creative. I had no real sequencer at the time, so I had to get real creative. Um, After football practice, me and my boy Lamar, we would go to Guitar Center, and this is back when Guitar Center would let you go nuts without you
Yes.
buying anything. I don't
Good
think
at
you can do that,
yes.
but
Uh-uh.
yeah, we were going on that MPC and the motif, and all these different things that were in there, and we would take the little floppy disk and put it in and save it. That's how old it was. We put the floppy
The
disk,
floppy disk.
and we had no way to convert it to a CD at home. We had no way of doing that, but we were just committed. So that's some of the earlier parts of
Mhm.
music: church side, concert band, trying to learn production. So that's the earlier parts of it.
So hearing all that, like your love for music and production, and even when you start thinking about the scoring side of things, when do you kind of make the connection between that side? and the business side? Like, when did you develop your first interest on the music business?
A good question. So, I was very weird in this regard. So, at 15 years old, I sparked an interest to start learning what the business is. I had at the
At
time I had
15.
nobody. 15. I had
Okay.
now for whatever reason, I want to say when I was around, yeah, I'll say I was about 12. Entrepreneurship gene just kicked in. I don't know where it came from. It's not like I had a whole bunch of examples in front of me to show me what that looks like. But for some reason, I just had this entrepreneurship thing that just kicked in. I found out later, my grandfather, that's what he was. You know what I'm saying? So I'm like, oh, okay. So maybe it's a little generational thing. I don't know. But I understood that even though I didn't know the business at the time, I knew that, okay, I knew I wanted to be a session drummer, a touring drummer, a music producer, composer. I wanted to be a score producer. I started learning what a score producer was because I was studying
Mhm.
Phil Collins. I was studying what Quincy was doing on the film side, Quincy Jones. I was studying Hans Zimmer. So I was learning, I was an avid credit reader. So I was learning I didn't know what every title meant, but I started like just studying, okay, what are these things? Like, what do these things mean? I'm like, well, you got to make money. So there's a business side. So I started studying copyright law and music publishing at 15 years old. And I was the only one doing it.
Yeah, I bet
I,
you were.
yeah. I've been in this business 20 years. I have yet to meet anyone that told me they were doing it. Every time I tell that story, they're like, Jay, you're weird. You was weird back then. I said, I was tunnel vision focused. So yeah, I started, I went to Guitar Center and I found this music business book. And I didn't do a lot of reading. I didn't care about reading much, but I would go in there and I would just kind of just read different things. I never bought the
Mhm.
book. I mean, I was a kid. I'm going in there and I'm spending hours in Guitar Center reading through this stuff. I would look up stuff here and there. There wasn't much stuff online back then. But yeah, that it started at 15 years old. That's the very beginning of it. Of me just I'm hearing new words. What is a PRO? I'm like, what's that? And I started learning, oh, BMI, ASCAP. I didn't know what CSAC was at the time. I was a
Mhm.
lot later, So the interest just came from me. I just got curious enough to start asking questions, really. Reading
Okay.
stuff.
So it wasn't any outside influence. This is just something that was in you to be curious about and to want to pursue.
Yeah.
Interesting.
Like I was just very
Okay.
curious and I knew that I needed to learn what this was. So and from where I'm from, it's really hard to do. It's different when you grow up in Nashville, New York at the time. This is back when New York was popping. A lot of the business was in New York at the time. Or if I grew up in LA, I would have had resources. Every bit of information I had to fight for.
Yeah, so I know where you grew up, but what for the listeners' purposes, where did you grow up?
Yes. I'm from a city called Tacoma, Washington. So that's 30 minutes from Seattle.
Yeah. And here you
Tacoma,
are.
Washington.
Here you are. How many years later?
Right,
So
yeah.
when we talk about all the hats, like I even know when we first talked about the idea of having you on the show, and you kind of even said, okay, well, what part of what I do are we talking about?
Right,
And I'm
right.
like, I want all of it, actually. So when we talk about all the different hats that you wear, musician, producer, publisher. Do you feel like any one of those kind of more defines who you are than the other? Or do you identify with one more than the other?
Hmm, that's a good way that's a good question.
I'll be thinking, Jovan. I'll
Identify,
be thinking.
man. Well, I can tell you like this. I can tell you what I enjoy doing more. It's probably the better, probably my more accurate way of saying it. So,
Mhm.
oh, you know what? No, I can answer it. Scoring. On the creative side, I feel
Really?
like I have to speak.
Okay.
So, creative side, I enjoy scoring. I dedicate a lot more of my time to scoring film, TV, video games.
Mhm.
I do commercials here and there, not too often. Creatively, that represents me more, in my opinion. Even though as a producer and writer, when I work with artists, I have my different lanes in that. But Scoring, I like the challenge. It is
So
it's really
quickly, but tell people what scoring is. Some people may not be familiar
yes,
with what that is.
right. So scoring and film composing is where you have to study the footage and you have to create the mood of the music according to what's happening. Um, And when it's time for you to be sad, it's my job to make sure you're sad in theaters or at your house. It's time for you to be happy. That's my job too, right? So, and not just mood music, but we also have to do dialogue music as well. So, like when if let's say there's no music playing per se in the scene, but someone's talking. Sometimes I have to play like a piano string patch where if one person if a woman is talking to a man, she may ask a question. I may play a few notes that represent a question. Sounds like a question. And if he answers, I have to play other notations that represents the response of the statement to the answer. So it's like a call and response thing. Like there's a lot of nuances. There's the sound design side where we're creating the sound effects, the warping, all that. There's that side of it too. All of that makes the movie make sense. Without that, movies don't work or TV show. It just doesn't work without that. Trust me, I've watched enough footage in my
Without
life to know how crazy certain projects,
huh?
if this had no music, if the consumer now, a lot of these projects I'm talking about are super huge now, but if you saw them in its raw form, you'd be like, oh, you need all of that for this
Right.
to make sense. So I love the challenge of scoring.
Uh-huh.
I love the fact that you just can't come in the studio and start jamming out. No, you gotta study the footage. Sometimes you gotta look at the script. You gotta get context. I like the challenge. I love it a lot, and I like that it requires diversity. Because if you are a true film producer and score producer, you have to be diverse. You cannot be one dimensional on the scoring side of the business. Um,
Right.
so I love that part of it. I love that I can show all elements of me within scoring. Maybe not
Uh-huh.
every project. Some project is very themed, right? But throughout doing the projects, I can show the country music side of me. I can show the rock side. I actually do a lot of rock music, because I'm from Tacoma, Seattle,
Right.
Washington, big rock state. I have a lot of that in me too. I can show a little church. I can show the R&B. I can show. I love EDM, pop. I can show so many. I'm a conductor as well. So if the film company needs a conductor, they don't necessarily have to hire someone separately. I can do that too and get that check as well. So yeah, I'm gonna say creatively, I'm gonna say scoring. On the
Uh-huh.
business side, I enjoy my claim to fame, for lack of better words, is music publishing. So I'm a music publisher. I do own a music publishing company, or two of them actually. One is at Universal, and one is at another group. And I've been signing songwriters and producers for a long time, and I'm very hyper focused on catalogs. So I own a lot of catalogs. I've been buying catalogs for many years. I think the oldest song in my publisher catalog is from 1964 or 65, I think, and then all the way up to SZA today. SZA and Bruno or whoever today's, and a little bit of a mixture in between. So I like to buy those catalogs and I create different monetizing systems. I place them in very unique ways that may not be traditional, which makes the whole value of the catalog go up. Um,
Right.
so, so from the business side, I'll say that, and I'm a marketing executive too. So that is fun. Being on the project, that's fun too. I'll give you two answers. So on the business side, if I sum it up, music publisher, marketing executive, and
Uh-huh.
then creatively scoring.
Scoring. Okay. Fair. So since we're talking about publishing, what are some misconceptions that people have, or what do people not understand about publishing, right? We hear a lot of drama, back and forth on social media or the internet about, artists fighting for their publishing or how they, were somehow mistreated because they didn't get their publishing. What's the importance of publishing and why does it matter?
Well, publishing matters because it creates your retirement fund. It's your if you have a nice one and if it's administrated really well and worked well, it can be a lifetime of revenue. It is it's most definitely a strategy game for sure. Um, um, to be totally honest, part of the reason why I'm so passionate about teaching this stuff is because when I look at so many artists and writers, producers, even A&Rs, I've seen record executives speak on stuff on podcasts, and a lot of them don't know what they're talking about. Some of them do. Don't get it twisted. There's some that really know what they're speaking about. A lot of them, and it's not their fault, but a lot of them don't even know what they're referring to. Like, one of the things that I taught a seminar a long time ago, just like 2017, 17, 18 maybe. And when I tell you this was like an all-star class, this wasn't just a whole bunch of college students. So there was seasoned vets in the business that came to see me teach, and it was an honor. I was like, man, this is beautiful. Some of these people that are in the room, I grew up watching. Some of the
See, hold
artists that were
I'm gonna pause you for just a second. See, now people, when I argue with you on social media, on Facebook or whatever, this is why I feel comfortable arguing with you, because this is who I've learned from. So it's his fault.
it's
Please
me. I'm
continue.
sorry. You can
Yeah,
fight. You
it's
can
all
fight me.
Jovan.
You can fight me. It's all right. But I mean, it's crazy. Out of the top 5 songwriters at the time, 3 of them were in the room at the same time
Hmm.
that were
Wow.
there. You had A&Rs from Atlantic Records in the building. You had staff members from Capitol, Universal. I have one of the a good friend of mine. He's part of the Universal Music Ownership Group. He was there. Older Jewish gentleman. He's a legend. He was there. The former VP of Universal Music Publishing Urban Division was there. I mean, everybody named Mama was there. It was a very exclusive situation. Lot of talent and a lot of Grammys and hit records in the room for sure. And when I started the class, the first question I asked is, I said, how many of you all can tell me how many streams of income there is per copyright? Raise your hand, right? And so, like, keep in mind, you got industry vets in the room. Some people are from Berkeley School of Music. Some are from MI. Some are from Full Sail. Some didn't go to college at all. I mean, so you got a good plethora of background from season to rookie, right? And some people raised their hand and said 1. Some said 2. No one went past 3. No, I take that back. No. One person said 4. No one went past 4. Okay. And so I said there's 7. The whole room got quiet. Everybody was looking at each other like,
Because I'm
what?
sure they were pretty confident when they answered too. Like
Oh yeah.
they knew
And
what they were
some
talking.
people, right, and I'm not gonna say their names, but there were some staff members from some major labels, and I looked at their face and they didn't want to lift their hand and be wrong.
Yeah.
So there was the majority of them was like,
Mhm.
I caught that. I said 7. Now keep in mind there was about 50 people in this room. This was invite only, by the way. So there's about
Okay.
50, 60, maybe 60 people. We were in a big live room, a big orchestra room. 50 or 60, 55, 60 people in the room. Only one other person in the room knew the answer besides me. You want to take a wild guess who that was? The old Jewish guy in the corner that co-owns Universal Music Group.
Wow. I
Only one.
I can believe that though. I mean, it's
Yeah.
hard to believe there was only one, but I can believe that was the one.
Yeah, it was. Yeah, so 7 streams of income. And I said, if you don't know about all 7, you're most definitely not getting all 7. And then I started the class. The class was popping. It was beautiful. But see, that just shows you right there, no matter how much we think we know, you always got to stay a student. Even me. I've been blessed to teach on wonderful major platforms. I do consult a lot of consulting work for a lot of different production companies and a whole bunch of other stuff. Believe it or not, I get hired to train attorneys too. Because a lot of attorneys, because a lot of music entertainment attorneys, a lot of them didn't keep up. They passed the bar in 89, 88. 95.
Right.
And
Right.
when streaming came into play,
Change the game.
everyone messed everyone up. So, I mean, so there's a, I mean, there's a lot of attorneys that are now, which is nothing wrong. You should pay to get trained and to understand the newer things and understand it at a deeper level, you know.
Of course.
But even though I get blessed to teach some of my heroes and people in very powerful positions, I still stay a student because this business always changing. It's always moving. You know, there's the AI thing, the new neighboring right laws and royalty, artist royalty. I mean, there's so many facets to it. So anyway, but I can get nerdy about that all day. But the thing is, though, is that there is so much lack of knowledge in the music, and I'll say, and the media business. There's,
Mhm.
I personally believe it's one of the most uneducated industries in the world. That's my opinion. And what I mean by that, just so I don't want no one to misconstrue my words, but what I'm saying is that everybody is trying to be an artist. Everybody is trying to be a writer, trying to be a producer. It's very, especially the artist thing. It's extremely, extremely common. But everyone just gets up and just starts doing it and doesn't even take the time to learn. They just want to get in the studio. They want to do the selfies. They want to shoot a music video and get a distro kit account, TuneCore. They don't even know what that stuff really means and just put
Right.
it out. It's became a karaoke game, is what it's became. So, but then you have people that are pursuing artistry that say it's their career, but if you go through their life, it all lines up to be a hobby, right?
Mm. Mhm.
I say it all the time, and you know, being my student for years, it's called the music business.
Business.
But people
Right.
most of the time take the business part out and they want to do music all day long. And that just doesn't get you to any form of success, you know?
Mhm.
Um, I also want to say this too, because I also hear this. There's two things I hear almost every other day that I most definitely, hopefully, people will watch this and this will clear some stuff up for them. So,
Mhm.
for one, when people mention masters, right? Because the new wave is, yeah, I'm gonna get my master. I'm gonna get
On my
right,
masters. Right.
and not saying that's a bad thing. If you can be a boss like that, do it. I encourage that all the time. But you also need to understand what that means instead of just saying, right? Because if your masters ain't worth nothing, what are you talking about? Right? It's just you have to know how to work the masters. You have to have the relationships to have the proper people make that master become something. And then also understand what the confinements and what the standard is for masters. There's a reason why if you sign a traditional record deal, why they automatically own the masters. There's a reason for that. Reason number one, they paid for everything. You didn't pay anything at all, right? Also, you're utilizing their marketing relationships, their distribution, their opportunity. You're not bringing any muscle to the table, right? And so now, yes, you get a profit split of your artist royalty, which we can explain a little later what that means. But and of course, that's subject to you recouping and then profiting past a certain point. Blah 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 blah. Right? If you're going to go out there as an artist and say I'm on my masters, just know that you need to fund everything yourself so you can do that.
Yeah.
Fund it yourself. You got to not just the studio time. That's the easy stuff. No,
That's the basics. Right.
the mainstream marketing side, and you have to be connected to the mainstream marketing side because you may have the money, which it does require a lot of money. You may have the money to market your music, but you got to be connected to the people that are actually breaking these records for the major labels. Because all the record labels use the same five groups. Every hit record you hear is marketed by the same five, not five people, but five teams, right?
Mhm.
So, which now you can get connected to them now because you know the playing fields have changed. So, but anyway, um, um, just understanding what what it requires to own your masters. You can't try to go convince a company to do all this stuff for you. You put nothing into yourself financially at all, even though you want to convince someone else to believe into what you're doing. But you have no proof of you putting into your own self full heartedly. But then now you say you want to own the masters. it just doesn't make sense. But once again, lack of education, not understanding what that really means. And, but
Mhm.
yeah, if you do understand it, um, it's a beautiful thing. The payout is amazing, you know, if you're connected to the right situation. So, but yeah, hopefully that answered your
Yeah.
question.
Yeah, of course, and then some. I appreciated our classes so much because people got a chance to ask those real life questions, situations that they either were going through or they knew someone personally that were going through, and it was so multi-layered, that we probably wouldn't have been able to peel back those layers on our own because of the lack of education or information that's out there. So the fact that you're willing to, be out there and teach these things to the people that actually want to learn and you're passionate about it, is great. There are people in our class that said they were going to name their firstborn Jovan or their middle name
Yeah, I've seen it.
Jovan. You mentioned earlier DistroKid and TuneCore, and we have so many artists out there that are saying that they don't want to go to a label, that they want to be independent. Can you kind of shed some light on what that looks like when you're trying to get your music on, like you open Apple Music and you have that first page and you have the your new release for the day, and how do you even get somewhere like that as an independent artist?
Well, this is a good question. So traditionally speaking, if you are an independent label or you consider yourself an independent label, if you go do a distribution deal with anybody, by default you own 100% of your masters because that distribution company does not have the responsibility that a record label has. That distribution company has no. I mean, some distribution companies will give you a little bit of, little bit of not distro kidding them. They're not doing that, but I'm saying like, the bigger the established distributors, they, depending on what you've already done previously, analytically speaking, because this is a numbers game now. Depending on what you've done on that side, they they may give you, some a little bit of support money, not a whole bunch. They're not going to go crazy because they don't own any of your masters, and then your profit split is drastically different. If you do a distribution deal, the standard number for distribution deals is either an 80-20, which is you get 80, they get 20, not of the master, but of the profit split of the artist royalty specifically. A 70-30 is very common. You even run into some 90-10s here and there. Doesn't happen every day, but sometimes you run into a 90-10. Um, something like that. If they're doing a little bit more, it may even push close to that 70-30 conversation, right? Um, but either way, they're not going to do a lot because they're not garnering a lot from it, right? So that's one side of it. But in order to get the visibility you're talking about, it's called co-op advertisement is what it's called. So co-op advertisement is what gets you those right retail positioning on your DSPs, on your Apple Music, your Spotify, your Tidal. And in order to do that, you do need to be connected to, big name marketing executives that can handle that, which is completely different from radio.
Mhm.
You can know some radio people, but that's a whole different world, right? So, and unfortunately, that is not something you can just Google. I'm gonna just be
Mhm.
honest. It's which is part of why a lot of wrong information is being put out there on podcasts. There are some great podcasters getting stellar information done. I want to, but there are a lot of misinformation because as an independent artist, you can't just go on Google and find out, hey, how do I get connected to the people to do X? You're going to get a whole bunch of spam stuff that pops up, and you're going
Mhm.
to run into people that are not really in it for real. Because the truth is, the mainstream marketing people that are breaking all these records, they don't have websites. They don't solicit you. They're never going to reach out to you. I promise you, it's never going to happen.
Mhm.
So so I'm gonna say this for those of you that are getting DMs, them random DMs that everybody gets. Hey, you want to get on the
Right.
next Spotify playlist?
Right.
Yeah,
Right.
$850. Now that's not how it works. It's all referral based. It's all you got to be connected to someone to walk you into that because those real marketing folks, they're dealing with the major labels on a regular basis. Right? So
Mhm.
I wish I could just say, oh, yeah, you can go to this such and such and you get what you need and treat it like it's Walmart or Amazon, but that's just not the truth. This is a relationship business. And so, in order to even get connected to those people like myself or a Ken Wilson, a Troy Marshall, um, Who else? AJ Savage. I mean, the list goes on. I mean, uh, so yeah, I mean, it's a relationship thing for sure. So now let me go back to distribution for a minute so I can explain the difference. So
I'm just a teacher all the time.
I think the misconception of distribution, especially for the general public, is TuneCore, DistroKid, CD Baby. I know there's a lot more, but I'm just gonna keep it right there.
Mhm.
Those type of platforms where anybody can sign up and you could go on and you pay your fees. It's cool to have it because now you have people. You have some. Look at how many artists. Look how saturated music is today. You have so many releases coming out all the time because you have a bundle of people in the world that don't take music seriously at all. They may
Absolutely.
think they do, but not really. It's fun. Oh my gosh, you're telling me I can go record a song with my laptop, my mic, and my interface. And
Mhm.
then I'm not gonna mix, I ain't gonna master, I don't even know what that is. I'm gonna go ahead and put it on CD Baby, TuneCore DistroKid. I can set a release date, and then in a few days or a week or whatever, I can go on Apple Music or Spotify, and I'm gonna see my single cover. Like it's an excitement. And I'm not saying that's wrong,
Mhm.
but then what happens is you try to take what was designed for one thing and try to now compare it to a major distribution situation. It doesn't have the same reach. There's
Right.
certain things that a major distributor can put you in positioning wise and access that those curators cannot give you. Unfortunately, they can't do that. To be totally honest, and I've never heard no one break this down, so I'm gonna give you the exclusive, Carla.
Yes.
I've heard anybody in
Bing,
the
bing,
music
bing,
business
bing, bing.
actually say this, even though they know this information, but it's for especially executives that been in this a long time, they know this, but they don't talk about it. I'm gonna
Okay.
do it.
Okay.
The original purpose of those independent distribution curators, TuneCore, CD Baby, um, those kind of things, it was designed with a karaoke mindset. It was never designed for you to take it into mainstream. It was never
Got
designed
it.
to do that.
That makes sense.
Right. Because remember, Carla, back in the day, you couldn't just put a song out on the platforms, whatever the platforms were at that time, right?
Mhm.
It didn't work that way. Especially when iTunes, when Steve Jobs bought out Napster and changed the name to iTunes, you couldn't just get on iTunes. Like if you got on iTunes, that was a big deal
Right.
because you just couldn't do that, right? So these platforms were designed for people to come in and, oh, you want to have fun? You want to, hey, yeah, just pay this fee. There's no governing. There's no quality control. You have no customer service to speak to for the most part, barely. There's
Mhm.
there's no A&R work. There's no label servicing. It's none of that stuff. It's here to say, you want to put on a song? Okay, so if you want to do an album, pay $29. Okay, if you want this thing, you can add this package, and that's another $10. Then add this, that's $100. It's about the numbers. Sign up, and it's not a scam or nothing. It's not,
Right.
but it's
It's just not
karaoke.
what people it's just not what people think it was intended for.
Right. You're trying to
Right.
change, you're trying to take, and all of those companies have made wonderful money. All of it. DistroKid, all of them made crazy money because you're you're making something that is how can I put it? You're taking a business that is very governed, right? Some
Mhm.
people call
Right.
it gate kept. You can use that word
Mhm.
too.
Yeah.
Quality control. And now you're saying, I'm gonna make it accessible to everybody.
Right.
So now we're going to make a whole bunch of money from you just paying to upload songs and albums and pay subscriptions. That's what it's about. That's what we're here to do. But unfortunately, because artists don't understand that, they're trying to compare their TuneCore situation to if you have distribution to a division of Sony, Universal, Warner, even the other platforms like Vidya. Vidya is a great distribution company. The Orchard, which Sony owns that. I mean, you're trying to compare it 88, which is a part of Warner. You're trying to compare it Empire. You're trying to compare it to stuff like that. And that's
Mhm.
not the same
It's not the
thing.
same.
Let me go a little deeper, just a little deeper.
Okay.
So what a lot of people don't know, it's another exclusive, Carlin. If I had the little hip hop. I would
horn.
do
Pew, 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 pew,
I would do
pew.
it for you.
I'm gonna put it in there. I'm gonna put it in there. I got you.
Yeah, this should be part of your reel. This should be part of your
Yes.
trailer reel.
Yes.
It'll go viral. I promise you will.
Okay.
So what they don't tell you is there's different governing systems that control where things can chart at. So charting on Billboard, there's a governing to chart on Billboard, right? So what some people have found out the hard way, and I know some people that they didn't qualify to get a distribution deal with a major entity because you do have to qualify. You can't just go get one, right? So I know some people that did have the marketing dollars. They did what they did, and not with me, but with some other folks I know. And they spent the right money. They might have put, let's just say they put $150,000 into the marketing or whatever, a little bit, maybe sometimes 200. And then I know someone that went and grabbed a major feature, grabbed a major female singer. I gonna say her name, grabbed her, put her on the record. So they're thinking, oh yeah, I'm got the marketing, I got the artist, I'm gonna do my thing. Now, unfortunately, they weren't dealing with the right marketing people either because it wasn't part of the five. It was some other independent janky promoter situation or whatever. But that's neither here or there. The point is, they put the song out on one of those independent distribution platforms that we spoke about, and two things happened. For one, it got flagged because of the major artists being on there. They didn't have their side artist agreement or their clearance paperwork from the label they were signed to. So it got taken down right away. So they had to go clean that up. They went and cleaned that up, took a while, then they re-uploaded it, boom, it's out. So now it's doing these numbers and blah, blah, blah. And they're like, why in the world am I not showing up on R&B digital song sales or the hot R&B charts? Why am I not? And I got this big artist and the marketing look like it's, And so there's a governing called Illuminate. It's a company called Illuminate. Look them up. This is for everybody. You don't know who Illuminate is? Look them up.
Everybody take your notes.
Yep. Illuminate is a governing system. That system combs through every song. And if it can't clear through Illuminate, it's not touching Billboard. It won't hit there. There's certain analytics that have to be in place. Now, here's the thing. Even if your analytics qualify, but just for the mere fact that you're with that because of the distributor you're dealing with, those independent distributors are not governed by Illuminate or Nielsen BDS or even forms of media base. Not all forms, but some forms, there's divisions of media base, right?
Mm-hmm.
So unfortunately, you could be doing great stuff, but because of who you distribute it through, the music industry governance doesn't honor it, so you don't end up on the Billboard chart. I've seen it hundreds of times, but that's not taught. So you're working your tail off, doing your thing. Yeah, TuneCore, CD Baby. Yeah. Right? But you're trying to figure out why can't I chart on Billboard? And I got a major feature on here. Why can't I chart? That's why. That's the secret. The cat's out the bag. I've been waiting to say this publicly anyway.
Oh, great. Well, y'all heard it here first. Support the Dope Radio.
So if your goal is to be able to now go chart and operate like a mainstream artist and be in that mix like that, and your distribution platform matters. Now, I'm going to name one platform that I can vouch for and say 100%. And if there's others that I haven't heard of, do not destroy me. I don't know you. I'm sorry.
Okay.
But
this is who you know. So
this is who I know, and I'll say my publishing colleagues, because we talk about this stuff all the time. There's only one company that I've seen that is in that independent distributing curator category that actually is governed by all of the different reporting agencies or associations, I should say, to chart on the Billboard side and things of that nature. And it's United Masters. United Masters is the only one where you can go, that I've seen, that you can go sign up, you can pay for it just like you do DistroKid, but because it's owned by Steve Stout, legendary record executive.
I was just about to say, Steve
in a
Stout, you heard your
show.
name. Give me a
Yeah,
call. We'll put you
yeah.
on the next episode.
Steve is a legend. I have much respect for Steve. Much respect for Steve. He built that thing like a major oil. I mean, to my knowledge, he brought some of his Interscope cats in. I mean, you can actually talk to them. So if you have to go that route, or if that's the route you want to go, and let's say you don't qualify to go to an Empire or whatever from a
Mhm.
distribution standpoint, or if you just say I don't want to do that, United Masters is proven to be governed, and you can charge, and has happened. There are artists that have gone through United Masters that have been able to chart on mainstream hot charts, hot 100s, hot 200s. So there you go, little
Wow.
exclusive little nugget for support the dope
Yep.
radio. What's up?
Dropping gems. Thank you so much for that because I didn't even expect to get all that. I'm like, I've been learning from Jovan for some years, and I didn't know that part yet. We never know, what we're going to come up with in conversation with Jovan. That's why I like to keep him around, keep him on speed dial. People like to argue with me. I call Jovan. I say, I have a question. Wait, you just settled something. Yeah. So, I may have another direction I want to go to, but before we kind of leave this arena, um, splits. I know that splits is a very can be a very challenging conversation for some artists to have. It's like they know that they need to have it, but they don't, especially when it comes to, making music with friends, right? Or
Yeah,
family. And you just want to say, oh, we'll just split it down the middle, or I'm not even worried about them. They're cool. We got it. Tell people what splits really are, and the importance of getting those splits done, no matter who you're working with.
yeah, yeah. So what splits are? There's actually another gem. There's actually two split sheets.
Mm.
That's not taught often.
Gems today.
So the PRO / publishing splits is where it shows who owns what of a song. So if you got 100% pie, the way it works is that if 50% of it represents lyric and melody, the other 50% represents music composition, aka, if I want to put it in slang terms, if you made the beat. We'll just say it
Mhm.
like that. Okay. So the way it works is if you wrote 100% of the lyric and the vocal melody, background vocal, whatever, the most you can get is 50%. If you did 100% of the beat by yourself, the max you can get is 50%. The only way you can cross over to the other side of the split is if you participate on that side. So if Carla made the beat, but then also she wrote the hook, melody, and lyric on the other side, she can now end up with 65%. Something along those lines because she jumped over to the other side. So and when you fill out your split sheets, you know, put your publishing information on there, your publishing company, your member number, IPI numbers, all that stuff. And then the individuals have to log into their respective PRO accounts. So if you are a member with BMI, ASCAP, or CSAC, your information has to match each other when you register the song. So that way, when the royalties start coming in, it is being paid out accordingly based off the percentage that's supposed to happen. And that's specifically based off of a PRO artist. I'm sorry, not artist, sorry. A writer royalty and publishing royalty, which is different than a production point or a mechanical royalty. That's something totally different. But as far
Mhm.
as the PRO side, that's what a split sheet is. You also have another split sheet, which is generated by Sound Exchange. Sound Exchange it represents a royalty form called digital exploitation. So that is a completely different royalty. I won't go too deep into that because that's going to take a lot of time or whatever.
Mhm.
I do teach classes though, so
Yeah.
no one could. I do teach this stuff in a very deep way. But yes, Sound Exchange represents the performance, which is totally different splits. I'll give you a little nugget for it. So, let's say you are an artist. So, as let's say there's an artist and there's a featured artist. If you 45% is what's designated for an artist and a featured artist. So let's say it's Chris Brown featuring Tory Lanez. Let's say that for example. They have to split amongst that 45%. Then a separate 5% represents background vocals or session musicians. And then the other 50% is going to the record label or the distributor. So there's actually most people end up with a lot of missing sound exchange money because they don't even know about that part.
Right.
So you have tons of compositions that are just not
I
you're
didn't
just
know.
not making
Do you know who told me about Sound Exchange?
cool.
Jovan Dawkins.
I had I had an idea. Yeah. And you know what's crazy, Carla? Since since we did the map back in the day, Sound Exchange now has been paying out bigger checks than PROs lately
Wow.
because
Okay.
streaming is not generating that much, but the Sound Exchange stuff is popping, especially if it's an active record. It's a whole different game.
So what you're
So
saying is everybody go get on Sound Exchange because you're
get your
leaving some
go.
money on the table is what we're trying to tell
Oh
you.
yeah, yeah, billions of dollars just sitting. So and get it quick too because there's statute of limitations now. They've gotten a lot shorter. So, but yeah. So yeah, that's what I would say to that.
Yeah.
The
Okay.
splits.
Yeah. So we're trying to help, the artists out here trying to do their thing, trying to make their names known, see their names in lights or what have you. But there's a lot that goes on in the business of music, and you can't forget there's a side of that. Your artistry is dope, you're talented. Get paid for it and make sure you're collecting everything that you should be collecting for your talent. So thank you for sharing so much of that with us. Let's talk a little bit more about you and your career. Some more hats. Let's talk about label owner. Um, you own some studios. What has inspired you? I mean, I know you already have the entrepreneurship bug, but like, say for your labels, what inspires you to create heritage music or legacy?
So actually, it's funny. I didn't want to do label stuff at all.
Hmm. Okay.
That that's
I
the
never
real
knew
back.
that.
I
Okay.
never. On the business side, I always said I was going to be a music publisher. I also said I wanted to own a film, like a film company, and studios, which I do all of those things I just said. Um, but with the label thing, excuse me, that's what 20 years in the business do to you. You just yawn all day.
We're only 25, Jovan.
That would be nice if I was. That would be great. Go dunk or do something. But yeah, so what inspired me to do a little bit of label work, and I do say a little bit of label work because if you compare what I've done on the label side versus what I do as a music publisher, is drastically different because
Mhm.
I've committed way more of my time and energy into that. But on the label side, I realized in order to change content and get and put out things that are more valuable in the business and not a whole bunch of junk. At some point, you have to be the executive and control some of those things.
Mhm.
And so that's actually what inspired me to even entertain the situation. Um, because as a creative, if you do the track, you don't control what happens after that, right? If you write the song, lyric and melody only, you don't control what happens market wise, right? You don't control that. On the publisher side, you do control way more. But then there's
Mhm.
still a label. There's certain things that labels do that publishers don't do, and vice versa. So that's really what inspired it because I wanted to put out content that was different. You know what I'm saying? And get some more positive messages out there. And so some things I would like to control it better, and you could only do that if you um, own the masters and you're pushing those buttons. So that's initially what came from it. It's a very risky business as far as being a label, you can win from it. You can win really big from it for sure. But when you have to believe in other people, that's a different headache. It's a way different game at that point. And that's why you see a lot of rifts in the media between artists and labels is because, you know, there's a trust factor. A lot of artists that say that they've been screwed over the years is some of that is lack of understanding too, you know. Um, you know, very few artists understand the label side. It's not that many artists that know it for real, for real. So that's a part of the issue in the business as well. And there's two sides to that story too, because if you notice, I was talking to a friend of mine the other day about this. I said a lot of artists talk about what has happened to them, and some of those things are legit. Some of those things actually happen. Some artists be adding stuff to the story and put a little lighter
Right.
fluid on it. Like, okay, that's not exactly how that happened, but so we've heard the TLC stories, we've heard the Tony Braxtons, we've heard um I think the Temptations. I mean, so many, right? And yes, there are labels that have full blown screwed folks over, but there's a lot of labels that have been screwed over too. But you notice none of the labels speak publicly about it. Never.
Yeah, you're right. Yeah.
Imagine how the media would be if the labels started talking.
Yeah. Ooh.
I'm gonna watch that documentary. I'll be right there front and center because I know a lot of them stories.
With
So,
your popcorn.
oh yeah, I mean,
Mm.
it's great content, wonderful content. So, but yeah, that was what inspired me to do a little bit of label.
Mhm. Okay.
On the studio side,
Yeah.
so what inspired the studio side? I don't know if I've told this story publicly yet. So I always knew I wanted to own a studio, but my goal was not to own multiple studios. That was not my focus.
Uh-huh.
Early on, I just knew I needed my own commercial studio for myself to work in, to be professional. And so early on in my production, composing, writing career, um, I got a really cool opportunity to work with a really dope situation, artist wise. And this was the first time where I got to be like, I got to control the project. It was super dope. And so actually it involved Coco from SWV. So it was a compilation solo thing that I was in charge of. And it was dope because I got to pick it. This is my first time where I got to pick everything. So I picked what studio we recorded at, the engineer, the mixing engine, all that stuff. So we go and record at this really big studio in Los Angeles. And so I just so happens to see the invoice between the label and the studio. Now, the room we were in a big SSL room. For those of you that don't know what an SSL is, it's that really big, long console you see Dr. Dre and Quincy Jones in front of all the time.
Right.
So it was an SSL room. That room was $2,700 or $2,800 a day. So every day we were in there doing multiple things, that was racking up. So the invoice was probably like dollars when it was all said and done. So when I saw the invoice, I'm like, my wheels started just turning. I'm like, wait a minute.
Uh-huh.
Okay, I picked. So if I own the studio, that money would have went to me. But I was so hyped on my production money of what I was making per song for that particular ordeal. I think at the time I was getting like 25,000 per song. So I'm excited. I'm like, this is early on. I'm like, oh my gosh, yes. But I'm missing, wait a minute, but that 40 would have been mine if I owned the studio.
Right.
So then that sparked stuff. So I started calling A&Rs and record executives that I had just started building a relationship with. And I said, hey,
Mhm.
how does the whole money thing work between labels and studios? And they started teaching me how it worked. So my friends at Sony, another buddy of mine at Warner, and Universal, they just started telling me like, oh, it's a PO billing system. If we record there, you turn your invoice in, get paid in 30 days, whatever, blah, blah, blah. And it sparked. I said, so I got to get on the commercial real estate side of this thing. So then I put my first studio in Burbank many years ago. I had just signed a publishing deal. I took a good portion of that money, built my first one, and I just kept building. And so now every time they were calling me to work, they had to pay me if they were going to be physically in the room with me, the labels have to pay for that time separately from my production. And that's how it went. And then it eventually bled into me getting film studios and sound stages later. And so, yeah, so that's how those two things sparked it.
Yeah. Nice. Well, I know that you have in your multitude of hats once again. Uh, normally I like to read off people's like songwriting credits and production credits and all that. And we haven't done that for you on this episode. Um, mainly because I wanted you to do it. Um, and so people are used to me introducing the guests on the show by starting off reading all of their credits that they have. But I specifically wanted you to kind of talk about from an artist development standpoint, because you have credits like with Chris Brown and her and Tank, and but I know that you also work very closely with artists like Jordan Sparks and Corrupt. How much of all the things that you do would you say is the portion of where you actually get to spend time working with an artist to develop them?
Okay, it's a good question. So there's layers of development for me. So
Hmm.
there's times where I get called to just be a writer producer, where or maybe the label's like, we're trying to go a different direction sonically. So I'll come in and they'll say, don't do anything that we've ever done before. So now whether that's me doing one song or whether that's me doing a half album or whatever the case may be, I will come in and develop a sound, and we're working together with the artist to pull that out of them, right? Um, for example, Fantasia was like that.
Hmm.
So when the call came in to do Sketchbook, her last album, um, so how it started is that my production partner, shout out to Jovan Hill. Jovan Hill and Fantasia already were very close. Um, so he had got a call. He had got a call, and she heard Savage actually by Tank. We had did Savage
Hmm.
for Tank,
Yeah.
which was totally different for him sonically, totally, and it worked. From what the label told us, that was the song that brought the young crowd to Tank,
Yeah. Yeah.
on what the label
And
had.
you played for us in class a version that ended up not being on the album that went
Yeah.
crazy.
Matter of fact, the version I played in class was the version that was supposed to be out. That's a whole nother
Right.
story.
Right.
So the version of Savage that's out now that everyone says they love and all that,
Yeah. It was
that's
great.
actually the wrong. It's
Yeah.
good
Yeah.
until you hear the version that was
But that other
supposed to
one.
come.
Yes.
The other version, like, so yeah, we didn't even realize it was the wrong version until it was already out. So, but anyway, Fantasia, from what I was told, she had heard Savage. She heard that. And she was like, man, that's the kind of stuff I need to be on. And I don't know if it was her husband, Kendall, or somebody on her squad, had looked at the credits, and they saw, Javon Hill, Stanley, myself. But they're like, hey, so and so did that. What? So then she calls Javon Hill and says, I'm trying to have that. She said, I'm tired of screaming and doing this and the third. I'm trying to be on some swaggy vocal stuff. Vaughn called me. We start putting things together. We start working on just different tracks and stuff. And then vocally, she wanted to be on some different stuff too. So then I brought in my good friend Candace Wakefield,
Hmm.
and Candace is very rhythmic, but she comes from church, so she understands the stacks and the harmony. Like, so in
We need
that
on the show
situation,
too. Hey, Candace. We'll talk to you soon.
yeah, yes, she's a great person to have on here. So with doing half of that album, we shifted her sonically, right? Even though she's already established, she already has hit records, but we were called to come in to shift. She wanted to do something different on her own, and it showed a whole new side of her that's incredible. And so that's just one example of coming in and shifting something. I did it for Coco Jones a long time ago as well, before people even knew of her as an artist like that. This is when she was coming fresh off of the Let It Shine movie, not a couple years after that. So, but yeah, so developing creatively is one thing. And then you have the grassroots of it, where like maybe we're revamping your entire career, where I'm not just developing things sonically, but I'm changing your executive side. I'm changing your marketing. Which is more of the Jordan Sparks side of things, like a
Mhm.
Jordan thing, or something along those lines, where I'm shifting something, where you did this, but and now I'm physically involved in the label workings. I'm involved in this last Jordan Sparks album that did really well, called No Restrictions. I didn't just play a role creatively; I played a role. I was the label for that. And then also she developed her independent label. I helped guide her and her husband in as far as how to work that, and
Mhm.
restructure a team, brought in a manager, a different manager, and just all this kind of stuff. And her whole career is revamped now. It's amazing. Um, and yeah, so like I said, development wise, there's just different layers of it. Because sometimes I play the role from the executive and the creative side, and sometimes it's just creatively um, shifting things for an artist. So yeah, but I enjoy both for the most part. But yeah, I've been blessed to work with so many amazing artists in different facets, and I think that's special. I think I have the utmost respect for anyone that can be in this crazy business and have success creatively and on the business side. We see people win on the creative side all the time, but when you can win on both sides, I think it's the greatest thing ever. Not just financially, but just you get to learn different elements of artists, right? So um, to go over the discography. So creatively, on the creative side, I've worked with Chris Brown, her, was Khalifa, Corrupt, Snoop, Faith Evans, Jordan Sparks, Fred Hammond, commissioned. Uh, Tribute.
Check you out.
I'm really like, I gotta go to the garage. Tamala Man. I'm getting people, and somebody gonna get mad at me. I already know it. Roddy Rich. Uh, Man, it's a lot. Lil Uzi Vert.
Doc
Um,
Dawkins and Dog?
yeah, Dawkins and Dawkins. See, now I'm on a roll, and I'm gonna TLC.
Uh-huh.
I'm gonna mess some stuff up. Shantae Moore. Man, we'll be a long time. Travis Barker. Yeah,
We'll just
a
say
lot.
it's been a lot, and Jovan
It's been a
appreciates all of
lot.
you,
It's been
even
a
if he
lot.
forgot your
Yeah.
name.
I did on the
Don't be
publishing side.
don't be mad at him.
Yeah, as a music publisher, Justin Timberlake, Justin Bieber, Bruno Mars, Chris Brown again. I've worked with Chris creatively and on the publishing side. Um, oh man, it's who else? Uh, Tyrese, both sides. Tyrese once again worked with him creatively and on the publishing side. So yeah, we'll be here all day. And then movies. I've done a lot of movies and TV shows. I start off in reality television first.
Right,
Um,
right. I forgot about that.
yeah, so how I got into scoring, um, they make you do what's called music cues first. Typically, you never come into business just
Doing a
scoring.
full score. Yeah.
That's not normally how that works. So yeah, so yeah, it normally doesn't work that way. Music cues is little instrumental snippets that you hear in between stuff. So I started doing that really early. The first show I ever did was a show called Pit My Ride. And then
Mhm.
I did
Shout out to
Sweet Six.
Exhibit.
Yep, Exhibit. Yep, I did some cues on there. I did My Sweet 16. I did another show called College Hill. So I got really intertwined with Viacom, the company that owns BT, NTV,
Right,
VH1,
right.
Oxygen Channel, Nickelodeon. They own so much stuff. So I started up there. They didn't pay good back then. They pay good now, but back then the
Well,
production
not
fees
too
weren't
much.
really. Yeah, not now because that's early reality TV. You got reality TV stars now that make more than a lot of actors now. So
Yeah.
uh, started off doing that, then eventually got into TV series, films, and I worked on Amazing Spider-Man 2. I did a little bit on Straight Outta Compton, to Casey Undercover, Reno 911, Cobra Kai, Fortnite. which makes me popular with my kids.
Right.
Fortnite, Fortnite thing trumps everything, right?
Yeah.
So a lot of EA Sports stuff, Madden, 2K. So yeah, it's been a great journey. A lot of diversity in what I've done over the years. So
Yeah. Well, you've done a whole lot in your relatively short time. Because I mean, in the grand scheme of things, you think I feel like you still have many, many years ahead of you.
yeah,
So you've already accomplished a lot. I thank you so much for sharing it with us, not only on the podcast, but of course, in our classes with the MAP and the mentorship program. And it was such a turning point for me because it really made me tap into some things that I didn't know that I could do. And it created some relationships, that continue that beyond the class. Actually, someone hit me up the other day and reminded me of some of the things that I had done, with that, because sometimes you need friends to remind you of what you're capable of and what you've done, because you'll forget, so I'm here to remind you that you're dope. You've done a lot, Jovan. And I
appreciate it.
expect to see more, from you. Of course, if I could be of any assistance for anything you're doing, you could call CB Body Roll. Yeah, yeah. For y'all that don't know where Body Roll came from, that was him and his
Right.
cousin, him and Eric.
We was always doing body roll stuff, so we just stamped it. She might as well just trademark it at this point. Do
I should
something.
trademark it. It's mine. I don't care what anybody else says. It's mine. Got it. I got it on the chain. Got it on a couple chains.
Right.
And at the time of recording of this video, it's Eric Dawkins' birthday. So shout out to Eric. Happy birthday.
Yeah, yeah. He is
To us.
21 years old again.
Right. Again.
One
I
thing
won't
that's
say
why I'm
how many
sticking with.
times.
Yep, yep.
Yeah, but I will have to get out there to see you both soon, and very soon. Is
Please
there
do.
any advice you would want to give to either people aspiring to work on the business side of music, or to artists that are
Yeah,
aspiring to take it to the next level? Anything you want to share?
for sure, for sure. So I would say for artists, I have a few things to say to artists. So for one, if you decide that you want to be in this business professionally, um, it is very important to challenge yourself with truly seeing if you are truly committed to it first. Um, I would not approach this business from a place of just playing around, because even though it can seem that way because of social media, um, but it is very important that if it's really going to be a career for you, there is a lineage of hard work that if you haven't been through it yet, you actually have no clue what that really looks like. And it's important to explore and to see and to challenge yourself to see if you really love it that much, right? Because there's things that you can go through just in developing that you may say, man, I didn't know it was this hard. I didn't know I had to go to the gym like this. I didn't know that I had to go work on choreography. I don't even like to dance, or creative direction, or learning the business. I mean, there's just so many facets. Vocal training, getting a vocal coach, getting a vocal producer, which is different than a vocal coach. I mean, just all of these layers of things. Just know that there are people that put their heart and their sweat and tears into this thing and sacrifice literally everything
Everything.
to to build a sustainable career in this business. And so you want to make sure that you go in with the mindset of, hey, I need to challenge myself and let me see if I'm serious, so I don't mess my own self up, right? This business is not a game. It's not, it may seem that way, but it's not. So that's big advice I would say. Also too, um, if you want to learn the music business, I teach group classes, but I also teach, most people like the private classes now. So um, Carla, you can put my Instagram
Yeah,
information on here. So
for
my
sure.
personal Instagram is Jovan _drum _producer. You can send me a DM. I'll send it over to my management. They can let you know what it costs to per month or whatever. Teaching is my passion. I love to do it. I feel like if we have more educated people in this business, the business will get better over time. And I think it is getting better because more education is out there. So, but there's a lot of information that's not shared publicly. So, for good reasons, I understand why certain people won't put it out there. But anyway, yeah, that's my advice. Another thing that I would say for writers and producers specifically, um, focus a lot on your diversity. Don't just believe you can do any genre of music fluently. Challenge yourself, push yourself. Um, I think that's a very important trait. It's very easy to get tunnel vision. And I do hip hop, I do R&B, I do gospel, I think I do rock. I think you should expand, right? Um, yeah, no, that's the advice I would give. Oh, another thing too, I would also highly recommend. And I also teach this too. Um, Learning how to pick your counsel.
Mm,
That I don't see that ever
that's a
being
big
talked.
one. Yeah.
Yeah, there is an actual strategy of how to pick an attorney, right? One of the mistakes I see, I'll say this, and I'll let you close out, Carla. Um, so when I was coming up, the term that was used is you need an entertainment attorney. I think we all kind of grew up hearing that. Those of us that were pursuing it, you need an entertainment attorney. You need an entertainment attorney. So what I found out many years later is that the term entertainment attorney is a general term.
Hmm.
So you actually don't want an entertainment attorney per se. You don't want a person that just studies general entertainment. You don't. That's not the look. That's not the look you want. You want. Um, there are different. You have some attorneys that their specialty is music publishing specifically.
Hmm.
They may do a few other things, but that's what they actually do. You have some music attorneys where their specialty is distribution and record deals and dealing with masters. You even have some attorneys that are very hyper focused on catalog acquisition, which, believe it or not, is different than a publishing attorney that only deals with writers and producers. Right. So it's two different worlds. It's all within music, but there's layers to it, right? Um, then you have film attorneys. There's so you got to learn. Unfortunately, you may be spending more money, but it's important because it can be the detriment of your career. I see a lot of artists losing because they took one attorney to handle all their stuff, and that attorney cannot handle all of those things. And I see it all the time because, as I said before, I get hired to train a lot of attorneys, so I get to see the nitty gritty of what's going on, and what's missing. So, but once again, I teach that as well. I teach how to pan through that. So, but yeah, one more thing I'll say too is for those of you that are independent artists, don't be scared to be independent because this is the time to be independent. Yes, you need the relations to the mainstream marketing stuff. Um, I just so happens to co-own one of them five I was mentioning. I co-own one of them. So I'm not saying that we for sure gonna do your stuff. I mean, there's things to go through, right? There's budgets and even if you got the budget, we gotta approve what kind of music you're doing and what the look. I mean, it's relationship based, so you got to see what it is. But this is the time to be independent and win, but you got to learn the education to go along with it. So that's my little nuggets right there.
Absolutely. All the nuggets. I don't even know if we can call them nuggets at this point. They're boulders. They're boulders, but they're still like diamond or something. They're like diamond boulders. They're not. That's what they're gonna call them. I'll be thinking. And I appreciate y'all for tuning in to support the Dope Radio. Please catch up on any episodes that you may have missed because we're now on season 7. And stay tuned. The website is supportthedoperadio.com. I've just recently relaunched the merch part of it too. So if you want to get some Support the Dope Radio merch, that's on the website, or you can go directly to store.supportthedoperadio.com. Pick some of that up. Anywhere you get your podcast. It's on Apple, Spotify, Pandora, iHeart, all the things. This is the first season. We're going to be on YouTube too as well. So subscribe. Please tell a friend if you enjoy the show, share it. Please reach out to Jovan if you are really serious about you learning music business or what he has to offer you, which is a lot. I can co-sign because we spent many hours in that class. Thank you so much again, Jovan. I appreciate you. We'll be in touch soon. And I'll see y'all on the next episode of Support the Dope Radio. Peace.
Right.